All right, and we are live. Hello, everybody. Terrible news today. The wife is stuck at work. She's doing a TV show today. Oh, no, she's doing a commercial. So, so she's out. But the good thing about that is that I won't have anything thrown at me today. So we got in a little bit of a spat, you'll remember, yesterday because she thought that she was trying to claim that the people that went into the Capitol building on January 6th can reasonably be tried for trespassing, right? So after the show, I don't even know why she was contradicting me. Well, I didn't at the time. I figured it out. So after the show, I turned to her and I said, hey, what are you doing? What are you doing? You obviously, those people that went into the Capitol building were justified in what they were doing. And, it was a protest and they had every reason to go in there. And they shouldn't be tried for trespassing. Like, what are you talking about? And I'm like, you can't really possibly think that. And she goes, oh, no, of course I don't think that. And I said, well, then why did you argue with me so much? She was like, I don't know. I thought I'd spice it up. I thought it would be good to, have a debate on the show. So she's trying to make the show more, give it more energy, make it more entertaining or interesting. And apparently somebody had said she was boring. And she's like, okay, I'll spice it up. Don't tell Valeria she's boring, you idiot. I don't know who said that, but good Lord, what kind of a-hole says that somebody on a show they're watching is boring in the chat? She reads that. Anyway, I don't know who said that, but you're an idiot. Anyway, so now you're causing us to have unnecessary arguments which delay us talking about the news, and there's some incredibly important news out these days ever since the Biden administration has taken over. The Biden administration, I've been doing a lot of research. Last night I did research on several videos that I'm finishing up for my Mr. Reagan show. I'm kind of funny about videos. I kind of do things in batches, so I haven't posted anything in Mr. Reagan for a while. But that's because I've been doing all this tons and tons of research, and then I've written 5 scripts, and then I'm going to shoot them all, edit them all, put them all out, right? One a day for however long it is, 10 days or however many scripts I'm going to have. So I get into these patterns, kind of like mass producing a product, right? I like to do the research all at once, and then I like to shoot them all at once and edit them all at once. So it's kind of a bad system when you're doing a YouTube channel, but anyway, that's what I've been doing. But the good thing about that is that I've been doing so much in-depth research into Biden and all that, the whole leftist nonsense. And so it's interesting. I'm reading some stories now that are totally relevant to the research I've been doing. But one thing that was obviously the big story of the day, the breaking news, the bombshell, is our first story of the day. You want me to do the intro, guys? Let's do the intro, shall we? Even without Valeria here. All right, we are the least professional show on YouTube. Toxic masculinity. All right, yeah. I am toxic. Valeria is masculine. Together we are toxic masculinity. God, that joke's so old now. It's so bad. I don't know why I keep saying it. All right, well, let's have a look at the first story. This is absolutely dire. Absolutely dire. Rudy Giuliani has been raided by the feds. Okay, so we got Rudy Giuliani raided by the feds. Uh-oh. I don't have that set up. As I said, we're least professional show on YouTube. All right, there we go. Federal agents raid Rudy Giuliani's New York City apartment in their Ukraine probe. Sure, that's why they're raiding his apartment, the Ukraine probe. Well, let me read you a little bit on here, and then I'll go ahead and I have a little tiny insight into what's happening here because I have one friend who happens to know these people. All right, let's have a look here. Federal agents raided former Mayor Rudy Giuliani's Manhattan apartment and office on Wednesday morning. Two law enforcement sources briefed on the matter told the Post. The agents executed a search warrant and seized electronic devices from both locations, one source said. The moves were tied to an investigation into Giuliani's dealings in Ukraine, according to reports. Oh, actually, let just throw a question out there to my guy, Sebastian Gorka. Okay, one more question. Let's see here. So a resident of Giuliani's Upper East Side building on East 66th Street said that the doorman described greeting the agents at 6 a.m. and letting them pass when they displayed a search warrant. The raid marked an escalation in the Fed's probe of the former mayor who's being investigated over whether he illegally lobbied former President Donald Trump on behalf of officials and oligarchs in Ukraine, according to the New York Times. The Ukrainian officials were also reportedly helping Giuliani dig up dirt on Trump's political rivals, including then Democrat candidate Joe Biden and his son Hunter. The warrant sought communications between Giuliani and other people, including political columnist John Solomon, who had communicated with Giuliani about the effort, the mayor's lawyer told the Wall Street Journal. So, specifically, I guess, they had authority to try to seize any kind of communications between Giuliani and John Solomon. So it looks like this might be an investigation into John Solomon, right? And that Rudy Giuliani might just be sort of like an associate of John Solomon's, and so they've got this warrant to go after Rudy Giuliani to get his correspondence. But they do say here that this is somehow regarding his connection with people in Ukraine. I mean, this is all so crazy. I mean, if you are trying to investigate the criminal activity of somebody abroad, right? Somebody who's in another country, you've got to work with the people in that other country, right? If somebody commits a crime in another country, you go to that country and you dig up dirt in that country. I don't know how that's a criminal activity. I don't know if that's something that needs to be investigated. That doesn't make any sense at all, but let's keep reading. Well, I will say this. Okay, so let me give you the little bit of insight that I've got now. Because of this connection between John Solomon and Rudy Giuliani, I think some people might suspect that maybe they're just targeting Rudy, or maybe they're just targeting John or something like that. They also busted down the door of Victoria Tunzing's house. And here's the thing about that. So Victoria Tunzing and her husband and Giuliani and John Solomon, these are four of the people who have been the most aggressive in collecting evidence against Joe Biden in his dealings in Ukraine and collecting evidence against his son Hunter Biden. They're the ones who have really been pushing for investigations into these people and collected a lot of evidence against them, Joe and Hunter specifically. So it's obvious what's happening here to me. That they are targeting these good men for political persecution. So when I was reading about this, and somebody was texting me talking about how maybe they're after John Solomon specifically, I went ahead and I texted Sebastian Gorka, because he knows all these guys, right? And I said, do you think they're just after John Solomon, or do you think they're after everybody? Do you think they're after all of them? And he just wrote back, all of them. Basically, his position is that he thinks that this is kind of like a warning shot, right? They're trying to scare everybody. They're basically, hello. Higher than that. Okay, so he's responding. Okay, do you think they're trying to hide all the Hunter stuff? Okay, so I I was suspecting that maybe because they really, look, the FBI has Hunter's laptop, right? They've known for a long time what Hunter's guilty of, what he's not guilty of. They know what they can charge him on. They know what they can investigate him for. They haven't done anything with that laptop, right? They've had it for ages. I'm thinking, what if they realize Victoria Tunsing has some evidence, Giuliani has some evidence, all these people have evidence. Can we, what do we do with it? Do we just, destroy it? Do we find it? Do we get rid of it? So I've asked Sebastian Gorka, who knows all these guys, do you think they're trying to hide the Hunter stuff? And Sebastian Gorka's written higher than that, although that's part of it. How do you get higher than Hunter Biden? That wasn't supposed to be a drug joke. How do you get higher than Hunter Biden? Well, who's higher than Hunter Biden? His dad is higher. So I think they're trying to cover up stuff for Joe. That's what's being suggested here. And I think Sebastian Gorka is right. And I don't think you'd mind me telling you that's what he's thinking. Yeah, they're going and they're trying to cover the tracks of Joe Biden. They're trying to cover up all the evidence of Joe Biden's wrongdoing. When I asked him about the Hunter stuff, obviously I meant everything in the laptop, all the stuff that incriminates Joe Biden. But he's clearly responded, which I like. Here's the thing about that. If the FBI has all this dirt on Hunter, if they have all this dirt on Joe, and they can prosecute them if they want, they can investigate it, and then they can send it to the courts, and the courts can prosecute them. This gives the FBI a lot of power. Now, I mentioned this a lot on my show. I'm mentioning it in the new videos that I'm going to put out here on my Mr. Reagan channel. The CEO of Overstock, and I don't know, look, I'll be honest, I don't know how many people have started, just disregarded what this guy has to say. His name's Patrick Byrne. Okay? And he said a lot of stuff that sounds pretty crazy, conspiracy theory type stuff. And a lot of people have just dismissed him as a kook, as a nut job. But the guy's like a multimillionaire, he's got hundreds of millions of dollars. And I don't know what he has to gain from lying about this stuff. People are like, oh, he's lying. They're just dismissing him. I've never heard anybody say he's lying. I've never heard anybody say that the stuff that he's saying is not true. I've just seen an apparent lack of enthusiasm to cover what he's been saying. And there's an interview on my channel. You should look it up. Patrick Byrne, Overstock CEO. I don't know what I called it. In fact, I'm going to look it up because it's that important. Let's see, YouTube. I'll go to my Mr. Reagan channel. Okay. But what he says in this video.
Why is Jordan Peterson?
That's my little trailer, which I have to change because it's been there forever. All right, videos. What Patrick Byrne says in this video. Nope, I don't have it. Oh, there we go. Yeah, that's it. This is it. So I compiled a bunch of interviews with Patrick Byrne and various people. These are different interviews over time where he's basically saying he's got all this stuff on Hillary Clinton and nobody's paying attention to it. Let's see how many views I got on here. 77,000 views, but it needs to get more. Everybody needs to watch this video. All right. I called this video Hillary accused of accepting $18 million bribe. So this guy, according to this interview that he does, he says that he was approached by the FBI to wear a wire and go in and talk to Hillary Clinton. He was supposed to set up a meeting between her and some kind of foreign dignitary, right? This foreign dignitary was then going to bribe Hillary Clinton with $18 million. And Hillary Clinton was, going to react. He was going to get it on tape. He was going to take it to the FBI. And then, presumably they would send her up, right? They would have her be prosecuted and she'd go to prison. So it worked, right? According to Patrick Byrne, he went in, he interviewed, or he set up the meeting between Hillary and this guy. The guy offers the money. Hillary accepts the bribe. This is back when she's the Secretary of State. And, okay, done. Work done. The guy's a national hero, right? He feels good about himself. He's done this great thing. Then later on, he meets up with his FBI guy, his like contact at the FBI. And he says, hey, what's going on with the Hillary thing? I haven't heard anything about that. It's not that he's expecting it to be on the news and stuff, right? He's like, what? I don't understand what's happening. And the guy says, oh, no, you got to forget about that. That never happened. Patrick Byrne's like, but it did happen. Like, what's going on? The guy says, we're just going to use that, dirt against her. This is back before the election, back before the 2016 election, because we're just going to use that dirt against her to control her once she's president, right? This is what Patrick Byrne has said. And so he's sitting there thinking, oh, crap, I didn't help out the country by putting away a criminal, somebody who's a corrupt politician. I actually helped out other corrupt actors in the deep state who want to control corrupt politicians. So then he realized, shoot, I just did this really bad thing. When you're doing the show, sometimes people send you important texts. So I pick up my phone and it's, Chris, get your membership for free, 3 years. Blah, 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 blah. I don't even know what they're offering. It's some kind of BS thing. That was a nice distraction. Thank you, telemarketers. Anyway, so yeah, very important stuff. Very important stuff. So if Patrick Byrne's telling the truth, look, maybe he's crazy. I know people who know Patrick Byrne. They think that he's a literal genius. One guy told me that if you name any date in history, he can tell you like all the stuff that happened on that date. Like you tell him your birth date and he's just like, oh yeah, that's when this happened. All these celebrities were born on that day. He just like has all this trivia from that day. Like he's like a super genius or something. Is he crazy? Maybe. I don't know him personally. But he sounds credible to me. Okay. What does this have to do with the Giuliani stuff? Because if the FBI has dirt on Biden, and this is something that I've said for a very long time, and if they have dirt on Hunter, I mean, these are very easy to control people, right? So the FBI would essentially control the White House, right? This would be the deep state controlling the federal government. And it's funny, actually, I've been doing a lot of research on conspiracy theories. And they classify this as a conspiracy theory, and technically it is, because it's not it's not an accepted conspiracy by the establishment, right? So it's still a theory because it hasn't been accepted. It's not being written about in the history books, right? No political science teacher is teaching that there is a cabal of deep state operators that are actually running the federal government, even though clearly Biden isn't running anything. But who is running things? That's something I've been trying to figure out. Obviously, it could be a lot of people that have influence over what's going on in DC right now, in the executive branch, in the White House. But I think that it's fairly clear the FBI has a hand in it. The intelligence agencies in DC right now certainly have a great deal of control over what happens, over what Joe Biden's doing. Now, do they control every single policy? I don't think so. I'm not sure that it's in the FBI's best interest to meddle in things like, green energy and the Black Lives Matter crap that they're doing, right? The education, stuff like that. I don't think they care so much about that. But maybe they do. I don't know. Maybe they do. But it looks like the FBI does have control over Joe Biden. They do have control over Hunter. They can manipulate these guys in any way they wish. But if enough evidence was presented to the public to clearly destroy Hunter, to clearly destroy Joe Biden, it would remove the power of those federal agencies to control Joe Biden. So it's possible this whole operation, to some degree, has something to do with keeping Joe Biden safe, secure, not destroyed by Rudy Giuliani or Victoria Tunzing or any of the folks that are involved here, John Solomon and whatnot. But And to some degree, I also think that it's kind of a thing. Like if you continue to try to take out Joe Biden, if you continue to try to dig up dirt on Hunter and all this kind of stuff, we're going to take you out, right? Because they have no authority to go into Rudy Giuliani's house. They have no authority to do that. This is obviously a BS made-up warrant. They have no what do you call it? What you have to have, like, reasonable cause or something like that to get a warrant. I don't remember what the words are, but you know what I mean, something like that. They have to have a good reason to get a warrant. There's no good reason to get a warrant on Rudy Giuliani. Rudy Giuliani is not an enemy of the state. Rudy Giuliani isn't committing crimes. It's ridiculous. All right, let me read the rest of this article real quick. Lawyer Robert Costello told the Journal that the warrant outlined an investigation into the suspected violation of overseas lobbying regulations. He's lobbying. Okay, come on. Giuliani was awakened by the feds who seized his cell phone and other devices, Costello told the ABC News. Why didn't his doorman call him? Some doorman he's got. Time to fire that guy. At Giuliani's office, they seized items, including a computer used by longtime assistant Joanne Zafonte, who's been subpoenaed to appear by before a federal grand jury next month, Costello said. They're trying to make Rudy Giuliani look like a criminal, Costello told ABC. He has done nothing wrong. Well, exactly. That's exactly what it is, right? They're trying to make him look like a criminal. They're trying to let him know we're in charge now. You're not, and we can do whatever we want, basically. This is total authoritarianism, you guys. And this is really why this is the biggest story of the day and maybe the biggest story of the year so far. I mean, aside from like maybe January 6th. But yeah, this is sorry, I need to put it back on that. This is the biggest violation, I think, maybe possibly that I've ever seen of people's civil rights, of the federal government, federal agents coming in and just terrorizing American citizens, regular American citizens. You're not allowed to investigate this. You're not allowed to do things we don't allow you to do. Right? This is tyranny, or tyranny, even. This is how third world dictatorships work, right? We're going to persecute our political enemies, right? So we don't like these Republicans over here, so we're just going to send the feds out to intimidate them, and if they don't obey, we're going to just send them to prison, send them to the gulag. You know, this is how Soviet Russia worked. This is how Cuba works. This is how North Korea works. It's not how America is supposed to work, okay? We have criminals in the deep state, in the federal government right now, doing whatever they want. They do not care. They don't care about the law. They don't care about justice. They don't care about civil rights. They don't care about any of that. America is very quickly becoming a third world dictatorship. All right, let's see here. Costello called the raids legal thuggery. I would say they're illegal thuggery, but yeah. Saying he'd repeatedly offered in vain to answer questions from investigators if they agreed to detail the subject of their probe. It's like I'm talking to a wall, he told the Journal. Investigators in the Justice Department had tried for months to secure the search warrant, according to the Times. Investigators in the Justice Department had tried for months to secure the search warrant. That says a lot, right? They were hunting for a judge. They were hunting for some excuse to get this search warrant. They didn't have just cause. That's what I was looking for. Just cause. They didn't have just cause to get a search warrant, obviously. But they kept on, working it out until they figured it out. They found people that were compliant and would give them that search warrant. This is an illegal search. This is an illegal search and seizure. This is an illegal entry into his house. I don't care if they had a search warrant, okay? This is illegal. Their search warrant is BS. Everybody knows it. This is obvious. Let's see here. Tried for months to get the search warrant. Prior to President Biden taking office, Trump appointees at the DOJ had tried to block approval of the warrant, the Times said. Well, naturally. A spokesperson for the U.S. Attorney's Office in the Southern District of New York declined to comment. A call to Giuliani's cell phone went straight to voicemail Wednesday afternoon. Yeah, I'm very lucky that I have a friend that's connected to these people, and he'll respond to me and answer questions that I ask. this is unbelievable. But here's the thing. This is not shocking. This is not shocking. I mean, it's shocking, but it's not. It's totally in line with what you should expect from the Biden administration, right? These people are not they don't care about America in the same way that we do, right? They're not patriots. They don't care about civil rights. They don't care about the American people. They care about power. Consider what they're doing to the protesters from January 6th that walked through the Capitol building, right? Absolute political persecution. That's what it is, political persecution. They're trying to scare conservatives into obedience, right? You know how Biden keeps coming up and saying, "We need unity, guys. We need unity. Where am I? We need unity." Unity is a code word. Unity means obedience. What he's saying is the left believes certain things. The left's cool. The left agrees with us. The left's great. We don't care if you burn down buildings. We don't care if you march in the streets and kill people. We don't care about any of that. If you're a leftist, that's cool. You're on our side. You're going to vote for us. You're going to keep us in power. You're good. If you're on the right, you're going to give us a hard time. But we don't need you to be giving us a hard time. So what you need to do is you need to comply. You need to bend the knee. You need to submit to our authority. Then we'll all be unified. Don't you understand? All this suffering can end if you just submit to our authority. That's what the left is doing here, right? That's what the left's doing with Rudy Giuliani. That's what the left is doing with the protesters from January 6th. And we cannot let them do that. No, we will not comply. We will not submit. All right? We're concerned. We're real patriots, okay? We care about freedom. We care about civil liberties. We care about America, unlike you power-hungry lunatics. Now, I want to go back for a minute and revisit what happened during the Obama administration. Because you remember they kept saying, Trump's a fascist. Trump's going to do all these things that are going to take, he's going to be king of America. He's never going to leave office. He's just this terrible, terrible man. He's going to strip all the rights of all the black people away. If you're a black person, you're not going to have any rights anymore. If you're gay, you're not going to have any rights anymore. If you're a woman, we're going back to the 1950s, sister. You're going to have to be barefoot in the kitchen when Trump's in office. Of course, none of that crap ever happened, You didn't have brown shirts knocking in people's doors when Trump was in office, unless you were a Trump associate, and then, you never knew what was going to happen. But Trump never sent any troops out to go attack anybody, to arrest anybody, to go, search their apartment unlawfully, just like try to make up an excuse for a warrant. Trump didn't do any of that kind of BS trickery because Trump didn't care about that kind of stuff. This is the stuff that happens when you are a politician first and a representative of the country second, right? You care more about the power and the manipulation of the politics than you do about serving the people. I don't even think that you could call them public servants second. I think that's like way down the line. I don't even think that's part of the equation, right? It's all strategy. It's all politics. And we're not necessarily even talking about politicians. A lot of these people are what we would call deep state operators, right? They're people that aren't elected. They're in the FBI or they're in some other part of the federal government. And they're there for so long. They make all these friendships. They make all these connections. And they can manipulate people in politics. They actually have power over the politicians sometimes. Obviously, this is true in the case of Joe Biden. Let's have a look here. Jay Sekulow. Victory. IRS admits Tea Party and other conservative groups were targeted during Obama era. You guys remember this? So back during the Obama era, the IRS was instructed to specifically to target conservative groups and remove their nonprofit status and charge them all kinds of absurd taxes because they wanted to destroy the Tea Party. The Tea Party was too powerful of a group when Obama was in power. And so they set out to destroy the Tea Party by overtaxing them. They used the IRS as a weapon of the executive branch of government. It was unbelievable. Something like that had ever happened before. It's crazy. It just absolute abuse of power. Let's look at another instance. Dinesh D'Souza. You guys remember this story? So Dinesh D'Souza had the gall to make a documentary speculating that Barack Obama actually didn't care that much about America. And in fact, he was an anti-colonialist, right? An anti-colonialist. An anti-colonialist was something that we weren't particularly aware of as a thing in America, right? Because Americans are all colonialists, right? We are all colonists, right? I mean, the ancestors of Americans are colonists. Our founding fathers were colonists. So, well, I mean, obviously a lot of them were born here, but you know what I mean. So the question is really, what is an anti-colonialist, and what is, like, why is that bad, and you know, what's the story there? So Dinesh D'Souza makes this whole film about Dreams from My Father, right? Dreams from My Father, which was Obama's book. And Obama's father was an anti-colonialist. So if his father had a dream, an anti-colonialist dream, and Barack Obama wrote a book called Dreams from My Father, obviously he was taking that anti-colonialist dream from his father, and then he was going to apply it in whatever way he could as president. And Dinesh D'Souza's position was that, okay, so in India, they have certain people who are anti-colonialists, right? Because the British had colonies in India, and they hate Britain to this day. And Dinesh D'Souza says a lot of these people, they would love to just take Britain down, redistribute the wealth that they feel was stolen from their country. And it seems that many people around the world have this view. People in Africa have this view. Barack Obama's father was from Kenya. They were also a British colony, right? And so there's this idea that America is a land of colonists. So if you have an anti-colonial view, taking America down might not be such a bad idea. Redistributing America's wealth to the rest of the world might actually be a very good, noble thing to do. And Dinesh D'Souza saw signs that that was, in fact, what Barack Obama was doing. He was actually the opposite of Trump. It wasn't America first. It was America last. Let's take America's great wealth and redistribute it throughout the world, because America is this evil nation founded on colonialism, and the rest of the world would be improved with that money. So that was sort of the thesis of his film. When Dinesh D'Souza came out with this film and book, I think, this was a very popular movie, right? And Barack Obama obviously didn't like it. So Dinesh D'Souza, who did commit some kind of a campaign finance breach of campaign finance law, right? He gave too much money to a friend of his who was running for mayor of a town or something like that. And, you know, he did this knowingly. He knew what the law was. He circumvented the law, just trying to basically help out his friend. Now, these laws are set up specifically so that people don't have influence on politicians. That's really the only reason that we have those laws. But, you know, Dinesh D'Souza knew that he wasn't going to try to influence this person, you know, in their position as mayor or whatever position they were trying to get. But so he thought, you know, it's okay because I'm not violating the spirit of the law. I'm just violating the, you know, the like specific, like the letter of the law, And so he was trying to give too much money to this girl, and he knew it. And the federal government came after him. Now, they never come after anybody quite so hard. Dinesh D'Souza talks about it very eloquently if you ever want to watch a video about it on YouTube. But Barack Obama's Justice Department threw the book at him. Yeah, they prosecuted him more severely than anyone has ever been prosecuted for that kind of campaign finance violation, like ever in the history of the country, because he was a political enemy of Barack Obama. Barack Obama was notorious for persecuting political enemies. Do you remember Michael Flynn? I don't even think I have to go through Michael Flynn. We all know what happened there. Targeted by the FBI, persecuted by Barack Obama's Justice Department. For what? To get at Trump, to try to take Trump out. Totally unethically, by the way. Here we go. Here's another one. James Rosen. You probably didn't even hear about this one. So Barack Obama decided that he was going to go after this guy, James Rosen. He was a Fox News reporter. The federal authorities secretly obtained the emails and tracked the movements of Fox News reporter James Rosen as part of an ongoing investigation of former State Department analyst Stephen Kim, who is charged with leaking classified a report on North Korea. Okay, this was universally regarded as persecution of a journalist that Barack Obama's Justice Department, Barack Obama's administration, Barack Obama himself maybe didn't like. They just didn't like this guy, so they just went after him. This was perfectly legitimate reporting that James Rosen was doing, and he was persecuted by Barack Obama's administration because that's what Barack Obama's administration did. They didn't care about civil rights. They cared about winning. They cared about control. Everything they accused Donald Trump of, Barack Obama was. Eric Holder. Okay, so this is from the AP. There was no possible justification for phone record seizure. So Barack Obama's buddy here, Eric Holder, he did this with the AP as well, Associated Press. He went around and he just seized communications from the AP in an investigation that he claimed was somehow justified to protect the country, even though it wasn't. This is just persecution of... They were trying to intimidate journalists to fall in line, right? Notice a pattern here? The Associated Press revealed Monday that the Justice Department seized phone records for bureaus in New York, Washington, and Hartford, Connecticut. This should never happen. This is super unethical and should be totally illegal, but it's happening through, from law enforcement. And so they can kind of finagle it so that it's legal technically, even though it's not really legal. James Machen, the U.S. attorney in Washington, notified the AP about the seizure in a Friday letter, but didn't explain why the call records were taken. The records from April to May 2012 covered 20 phone lines that were used by around 100 journalists, according to the AP. So again, they were just going after journalists to try to intimidate them. That's the general consensus of what was happening there. They did not care about the civil rights of the people they were going after. In fact, I believe they were knowingly violating their civil rights. They were intentionally violating their civil rights. They wanted to do that because they want people to know the laws of the United States of America don't apply to us. If you think that you can use the law to protect you, you can't. You have no protection against us. You are totally vulnerable. You are totally at our mercy. We control you. We can destroy you anytime we want. They want to scare the hell out of every American because then they can control every American. Do not step out of line. We can't let this happen, right? So this is what's happening now with Rudy Giuliani. This is what's happening now with Victoria Tunzing. This is what's happening now with John Solomon. And this is what's happening now with the protesters from January 6th. They're trying to intimidate everybody to fall in line. You will obey us. I'm not going to obey you. Okay? Come after me. All right, so at the end of the day, I think this is probably one of the most dire times in U.S. history with regard to civil rights. I think that if you could track, the level of civil rights that Americans are able to have, right? I think that our quality of life, our prosperity in America, it increased during Trump's tenure as president. Then we hit the COVID pandemic, and Democrats just stripped us of all of our civil rights. As the COVID vaccine went into effect, and as these restrictions were lifted, we got more and more civil rights again. But now the Justice Department, the FBI, the different federal agents and agencies, and Barack Obama's administration is like, no. We got to make sure that at least Republicans know, at least conservatives know, that no, they have no civil rights. They have whatever rights we grant them, right? So it's like, once again, just like deep dive. America has to know you live in a tyrannical dictatorship now. This is not a democracy anymore. All right. All right. Well, that's it for that. That's depressing. Let's move on to the next story. So this one's a little bit more laughable. This is something I've been researching for a while now, several days, and Joy Behar just comes out and claims, no joke, she claims No liberal bias in the news media. Okay, so this is insane. Let's go ahead and switch to that other review so you guys can see the story here. She says, there's no liberal bias, Joy Behar claims. News outlets are basically balanced except for Fox and MSNBC. This is demonstrably false. One thing that I've noted in a recent video that I'm doing is that it's actually difficult for Democrats to be able to tell that they're being lied to anymore or that their news is biased. And the reason that it's difficult for them to tell is that like Pew and other like a lot of these research firms that used to do polling and used to do surveys on this kind of stuff, they've actually stopped doing surveys. They've actually stopped polling things like this. What was it? Was it PolitiFact? PolitiFact used to do a thing where they would see what the level of, I think it was the level of opinion versus the level of fact on each of the different news agencies. They rated CNN and Fox about the same, and then MSNBC was like ridiculous, you know. But that was before the era of Trump, right? CNN is like, there's been a producer, a technical director, and Van Jones have all three admitted that CNN intentionally lies to the public for ratings and to push the leftist agenda. They've all admitted to that. Chris Cuomo actually slipped up once. You can find this video still online. Slipped up once, and that's disgusting. Slipped up once and said that if Hillary Clinton doesn't win the presidential election, he said, well, we've done everything we can do for her, right? He like accidentally admitted this on the air. That was pretty funny. But yeah, that kind of slip up happens from time to time. I mean, it's obvious. It's obvious that they're shilling for the left constantly. And Joy Behar is just too stupid to understand it. So let's look here. This is from Virginia Kruta, associate editor at Daily Caller. Joy Behar claimed Wednesday that most news outlets, with the exception of Fox and MSNBC, are basically balanced. I bet, you know what the funny thing is? I bet she thinks her show is balanced. That's the really funny thing. All the news agencies are balanced, including The View. I need to do another episode of I Hate The View, or I Love The View, depending on how I'm feeling that day. Discussion on ABC's The View about recent corrections on Fox News on reports of Vice President Kamala Harris's book being distributed in the U.S. At the U.S.-Mexican border, and President Joe Biden planned to limit red meat consumption and argued that because there were both liberals and conservatives on all major outlets, they were effectively balanced. You know what's funny about that? I don't even remember hearing about Kamala Harris's book being distributed on the U.S.-Mexico border or Joe Biden's plan to limit red meat. I mean, I've heard the plan to limit red meat, but I haven't heard the Kamala Harris book thing. But you know what's funny about that? Neither of those stories are really that important, right? They're just kind of like fluff stories. They're nothing, right? It's kind of stuff I don't really report on because they're not serious issues. But they're obviously something that they care on The View, like, oh, you know, Fox got this wrong, therefore clearly Fox is fake news and they're all horrible. But let's go ahead and listen to these girls. I haven't actually heard this before, so this will be interesting.
What we've been talking about Fox and correcting untrue reports. Yeah. What's your thought? How effective is it for folks to push these false narratives only to come back and have to correct it?
Yeah. It's kind of like a big nothing burger. And I also think that a lot of times these lies catch up to you. Look what happened to Trump, all his lying. He lost the presidency. The Republicans lost the presidency, the Senate and the House because of his lies. Richard Nixon had to resign in disgrace because of his lies. People find out. It's interesting also that Liz Cheney is the one who's speaking truth to power, and they don't know what to do with her. She insists that she's right, and she is. She's saying Trump had everything to do with the Capitol 6 insurrection, and they don't want to buy it. So we'll see whose lie it really stands up there. The other thing I want to just point out is the reason we didn't discuss Hunter Biden on this show is because even though the Post pushed the story, it was actually never vetted and never verified, more likely, by various news outlets. And there is maybe you can say there's a liberal bias, but I watch a lot of news, and besides MSNBC, there's no liberal bias. There is basically balance on most stations. ABC News, CBS News, NBC News, all of them have both conservatives and liberals, and so I think that it's incorrect to say that there is a completely liberal bias, and that's therefore Fox and MSNBC are the only ones who are really on the both ends of the spectrum, in my opinion.
It's like watching a German politician in the 1930s going, I don't understand why everybody keeps saying that we are bigoted against the Jews. We love the Jews. I think Germans and Jews get along just fine. Nothing is happening. We keep sending them off to these beautiful camps where they are camping with their kids and they're enjoying the life so much, and everything is so nice. And I don't understand. Everybody says we are biased, but we are not biased. We are nice to Jews. We love Jews. That's what this kind of sounds like to me. Like, yeah, of course, she's like as far left as you can get. The stuff that she talks about on The View, what's amazing to me is she's been proven wrong so many times. I mean, I've covered that stupid show for years, and I can tell you that she's wrong about almost everything she says. And sure, some of the stuff kind of gets swept under the rug, like, in fact, I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to read you guys something. This is going to be kind of fun. So this is an upcoming video that I'm doing. I'm doing an upcoming video, and the video is called "What is a Blue Anon?" Right? And people on Twitter have started talking about Blue Anon, which is our kind of answer to QAnon. The left keeps telling us about how QAnon is this evil conspiracy thing that is just like overwhelming the Republican Party, and all Republicans are now QAnon conspiracy theorists. What's really funny is that if you there's, I don't have it here, but there's research that indicates that actually, if you check to see what percentage of Americans have never heard of QAnon at all, it's like 50% of Democrats have never heard of QAnon, which you expect 50% probably are going to hear it from the reporting from the left. But what percentage of Republicans do you think have never heard of QAnon? It's something like, it's like well over 70%. It was like 76%, I think, or something like that. Like well over 70% of Republicans, like 25% or something, more Republicans than Democrats have never heard of QAnon, right? And to me, that's such an indication of the disparity, the difference between how big the QAnon phenomenon is and how big the Democrat Party thinks the QAnon conspiracy phenomenon is, right? So the Democrats keep pointing at this because they're like, oh, look, this fringe group on the right, they believe all these crazy things. And the more they present it in the news, the more it gets, the more this message gets absorbed into the minds of leftist voters who watch their stupid networks, that like, oh yeah, the right is like the party of conspiracy theories, right? But I've been looking into it, and I'd like to list for you guys. I was gonna do this at the end of my Blue Anon video, which I will when I record it later today, but I'm also gonna read it to you guys. These are all the different, what I would consider Blue Anon conspiracy theories that have been believed by the left in recent years, and I'm definitely missing some. So if there's some that you guys think of, please comment at the end of the show once we're done with all the news, because I would like to add them to this list. But it's a pretty extensive list, and I'm going to read it for you real quick. These are the most egregious, debunked Blue Anon conspiracy theories, right? And this is the main key. These have all been debunked. These are all things that you can look up and you can verify are false very easily online anywhere, right? Some of these stuff is more basic, like the first one is Republicans are racist. Okay, that's something you can verify just by talking to any Republican. But you can also verify that by looking at statistics and polls and stuff like that. And you find Republicans are not racist. But anyway, let's go through these. Republicans are racist. Republicans are sexist. Republicans hate immigrants. Republicans hate gays. Republicans hate poor people. Republicans want to destroy the environment. Polar bears are dying. Glaciers are all disappearing. Human migration is caused by climate change. Climate change is an existential threat. Conservatives are anti-science. Conservative means a desire to revive the racist systems of the past. The prison system is a Republican effort to get rich off black slave labor. That's really true. That they really believe that is a thing. It's crazy. Cops are racist. Cops kill over 1,000 unarmed black men every year. That's a recent poll that they took, and I think it was something like 44% of Democrats believe that over 1,000 unarmed black men are killed every year. It's crazy. Conservative means a desire to revive the misogynist systems of the past. Pro-life men want to control women's bodies. Conservatives are all far-right extremists. Conservatives are against progress. Republicans hate immigrants. My wife is an immigrant, by the way. Melania Trump is an immigrant, by the way. Dinesh D'Souza is an immigrant, by the way. Trump's wall isn't to stop criminals or drug runners or human traffickers or terrorists. It's because he hates Mexicans. So-called assault rifles are the cause of all the gun deaths in America. Conservatives are low IQ rednecks. Conservatives are greedy rich people. Christians hate gay people. Mike Pence promotes conversion therapy. America is systemically racist. America is run by the patriarchy. Voter ID laws are racist. Voter suppression. The political parties switched in the 1960s. Conservative YouTubers are hired by Republican billionaires to spread right-wing propaganda. I've been accused of this, and I've talked to other YouTubers who've also been accused of this. It's really weird. I'm definitely not hired by a billionaire. I wish I was. The Covington boys harassed the poor old Indian guy. Jussie Smollett was physically attacked by two racist white guys in MAGA hats. Brett Kavanaugh is a sexual predator. Trump sexually assaulted countless women. Trump is a fascist who wants to rule the country like a king. Trump won't leave office until he loses Trump will not leave office if he loses re-election. You remember that one? Trump used the judicial system to punish political enemies, which is what we talked about. That's so funny because I wrote that last night, and then you had that exact same thing happen in the Biden administration today, which is that's quite ironic, really. Let's see here. Trump threatened a Georgia official to coerce him into making. I put George official. That's not right. Georgia official to coerce him into making up false evidence of election fraud. That had to be retracted famously. Trump policies put kids in cages. Trump policies tore immigrant children from their mothers. Trump persecuted journalists like a fascist dictator. I think I've shown that Barack Obama, in fact, did that, and Trump did not. Trump's international businesses violated the emoluments clause. Remember that one from AOC? The Trump tax cut only benefited the rich. Not true. Trump told Americans to drink bleach. Trump called COVID a hoax. Trump stole the 2016 election by colluding with the Russians. That was kind of a big one. I hope you didn't miss that. Russian memes influenced the 2016 election. That was a real accusation from the left, that the Russian memes influenced the election. Russia altered vote totals in 2016. That was also real. Harry Reid said that. Trump is controlled by Vladimir Putin. That was he was accused of being controlled by Vladimir Putin many times by Nancy Pelosi. Trump has been a Russian spy since 1987. That's not a joke. That is a real accusation. Trump is mentally unfit for office. Trump was good friends with Jeffrey Epstein. Trump forced the U.S. officials and the military officers to stay in military officers. The military officers. Come on, Chris. Get with the program. To stay in Trump hotels. Trump called U.S. soldiers losers and suckers. Trump's quid pro quo with Ukraine. Hunter's laptop was a Russian hoax. Michael Flynn violated the Logan Act and then lied about it to the FBI. Trump supporters are white supremacists. Trump supporters caused the George Floyd riots. Trump supporters have been attacking Asians because Trump called COVID the China virus. Trump ordered the COVID vaccine to be available before it was safe in order to help his 2020 re-election campaign. That was an accusation by Kamala Harris and is still believed today by people. Let's see here. Trump's postal service removed mailboxes ahead of the 2020 campaign. You remember that one? The January 6th protest was an armed insurrection. Donald Trump incited the January 6th insurrection, so-called insurrection. January 6th protesters planned to kidnap and murder Democrats. They still believe that, which is crazy. Republican congressmen planned and facilitated the January 6th insurrection. Yeah, anyway, I don't want to get into that. Republican congressman tweeted out the location of Nancy Pelosi on January 6th in order to get her killed. That was an accusation by several Democrats, including AOC. Trump supporters are violent. Conservatives are planning to take over Washington, D.C., so we need the National Guard permanently stationed there to protect it. Joe Biden is the most popular president in history. Yeah, that's a pretty bad conspiracy theory that Blue Anon has out there. If the news reports black crime, conservatives will go berserk and start lynching black people. If you ever wondered why none of the most egregious black crimes are ever reported in America, that's why. They genuinely think that you and I are going to run around the streets lynching black people because we'll be so furious that black people committed crime, as if we've never heard of black people committing crime before. Conservatives lie about their true motivations and intentions. That's a really frustrating one. And finally, conservatives are all crazy conspiracy theorists. That, to me, is one of the most egregious conspiracy theories of the left, that we are the conspiracy theorists. So, if you found that exhausting, and I certainly did, that's because it's a very extensive list, and that's just all the ones I could think of last night. But yeah, this idea that Republicans are conspiracy theorists is ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Okay, that list, that's not a list of like fringe beliefs. Okay, I didn't include the fringe stuff. All right, there's definitely some fringe stuff on the left as well, especially like with like Louis Farrakhan stuff with like black people invented everything, and white people are the creation of an ancient African by the name of Yaqub, and we're all basically demon spawn. I didn't include those things. Why? Because that's fringe left stuff, right? That's not Blue Anon. Blue Anon, in my view, is the conspiracy theories that are perpetrated by the mainstream media, right? If you go and you watch CNN, you will see all of these things that I mentioned expressed by the people on CNN. Probably most of those have been expressed by Joy Behar herself. And she's sitting there and she's trying to convince you that, oh, actually, no, there's no leftist bias in the media. If all of those things that I've read off have been expressed by not just the left-wing media, but the mainstream left-wing media, like CNN, New York Times, places like that, and all of those things have been disproven or shown not to be true or are very easily demonstrably false, who is perpetrating the propaganda out there? It's clearly the left-wing media. These are all leftist ideas. None of these things are obviously conservative ideas. Anyway, so I could read the story, but you guys have heard what she had to say, so you can judge for yourself whether or not she's a complete loon. I think we all know what the answer to that is. Okay, so it was a fun story to report, but at the end of the day, what did we learn? We learned that Joy Behar is insane. I think we all knew that already. All right, next story. Valeria? Damn, she's not here. Okay, I will read it myself. One moment, please. Uh-oh, wrong document. All right, there we go. The Anti-Defamation League says that Twitch should censor even more. Yeah, this is ridiculous. Okay, so I don't know if you guys know what Twitch is. Probably most of you don't know what it is. Some of you probably do. Twitch is basically like YouTube for gamers. So if you're somebody who likes to play video games and you want to stream it to other people who like watching people play video games, then you can do that. When Twitch first came out, I remember vaguely hearing about it. And one thing that was kind of an interesting phenomenon is you had like hot girls who would play video games and they'd get these massive Twitch followings. It was kind of like a somewhat innocent form of not, I wouldn't say prostitution, but you know what I mean? Like almost like sexual exploitation, but at like a very, very sort of like low key level. I remember thinking like, wow, that's kind of a weird thing, but I mean, it's kind of cool because at the end of the day, like certainly, to some degree, that's what actors are, right? That's what actors are. Actors are often compared to prostitutes, right? And the reason is because I think, if you think about what is a prostitute, I mean, well, okay, I don't want to get into that, but a lot of people want to have some kind of connection with people around them. And as the world becomes more and more digitized and less personal, like we're actually not running, like we're not interacting face to face much at all anymore. Like I very rarely go out of the house. I very rarely meet with friends. And so, yeah, I get a lot of my socialization needs met by watching TV shows. You know, I like to watch British comedies, and I like the people on those British comedies. I think they're charming people. If I could be friends with them and hang out with them in person, I would, but I can't because I'm, in Los Angeles and I don't know them. So I don't. There are people in Los Angeles that I do like, that I do spend time with, that I do go and visit. I do spend a lot of time on the phone with friends that I'm close to, but that live far away. But I watch TV, and I think that's something similar to like watching Twitch, even if it's just like a hot gamer girl. People I think who don't have a girlfriend, and they just want to see some like cute girl playing video games and chatting, and it kind of gives them the sense that they've got somebody there with them hanging out. I'm probably making it sound more sad than it actually is. But anyway, the concept of Twitch is that people are just watching people play video games live. That's Twitch. You can do other kinds of shows on Twitch too, but that's the main use for Twitch. And very much like YouTube, like Twitter, like Facebook, all these places, Twitch censors users, right? I think Donald Trump is actually banned from Twitch. But anyway, let's go ahead and read some of this article. So the Anti-Defamation League, who's, is this far left organization, they want Twitch to censor people even. Of course they do. Of course they do. The far left Anti-Defamation League has said that Twitch and the Amazon-owned video streaming platform should invest even more resources into censorship tools. Even if the platform banned Donald Trump twice, first temporarily during the campaign season, then permanently in January, Twitch streams are usually accompanied by a live chat feature which can be censored by moderators appointed by the streamer in question. In these community-moderated chat rooms, the Anti-Defamation League is targeting. Oh, it is these community-based. So you're not allowed to chat the wrong things, or the Anti-Defamation League will want you kicked out. Let's see here. We found that certain aspects of Twitch, when used effectively, can make its spaces more resilient against harassment than other platforms. For example, text messages in Twitch chat are ephemeral. They cannot be engaged with individually like content on platforms like Facebook, where options to like and reply to specific comments appear even on comments on live streaming video. They don't speak very well, do they? Other factors appear to be the extensive and customizable suite of tools Twitch provides to community moderators to address hate. However, this suite is not consistent across Twitch, as the platform that plagued a recent Twitch event hosted by... Wait, what? As the problems that plagued a recent Twitch event hosted by comedian Jimmy Fallon on April 6th shows, and even platform announcement events hosted by Twitch itself have turned into spaces full of hate and harassment. Unbelievable. I'm not pro hate and harassment. I don't like that sort of thing. But I am for free speech. And I'm not going to read this whole article, but I'm going to say this. Here's the problem with Twitch. Okay, and this is kind of to some degree the problem with the internet generally, and especially Twitter is a huge problem with this. A lot of the people that go on the internet are like teenage boys, right? Like 12, 13-year-old teenage boys. Because the term blue anon was actually censored from Urban Dictionary, right? Which I think it was Jack Prosobic? I don't know how to pronounce his name. Said that it was the first time he'd ever heard of anything being censored on Urban Dictionary, and he's totally right. Urban Dictionary does not censor words, right? The whole concept of Urban Dictionary is it's like ugly slang words and stuff like that. So they censored blue anon. They censored blue anon, specifically political speech. Blue anon. That's the weird thing about what's going on right now. You can really say anything. Like on Twitter, you can post pornography on Twitter. But you cannot say certain political things on Twitter because those are dangerous. And the same thing's going like with Twitch, but with blue anon. So I looked up the N-word on Urban Dictionary just to make sure that it was there. Because it's like Urban Dictionary is like, well, you can put the N-word. That's not a problem. But you can't put blue anon. That's dangerous, right? So I went on Blue and I looked up the N-word, and it had a little audio thing where you could listen to the word being pronounced. And I was curious how they, like, if they were willing to do that. Because I was thinking, like, that's actually... I'm actually kind of surprised that they would actually put the little audio file there and allow that to be there for that word. But they totally did. So I pushed it. I pushed the button to listen to it to see if it's some kind of like digital audio, pronunciation thing. But it wasn't. It was actually somebody recorded their voice saying it. But if you go to Urban Dictionary and you go to the N-word and you play the little audio clip, it's not the voice of like a professional, voice recording artist. It's the voice of like a 12-year-old boy, right? So it's obviously some kid who thought it would be funny to put the audio in there, right? And that's the problem with our like hyper censorship society right now. It's like a lot of times when I was growing up, I wasn't actually that bad of a kid. I was a pretty good kid in the sense that I like to get up to mischief, but I wasn't like intentionally crass or vicious or nasty. I wasn't trying to like get into fights. I wasn't trying to commit arson or I wasn't into vandalism or anything like that, right? I wasn't like a bad kid, but I knew a lot of kids who were bad kids. And the kids who were interested in getting up to trouble, they wouldn't have thought twice, I don't think, about saying the N-word. I don't specifically remember anybody saying the N-word in particular, but I doubt that any of them would have cared one way or another saying that word specifically. But it wasn't because they were racist. See, that's the thing. Like, yeah, I grew up with a kid named Ryan, black kid. And, we used to ride bikes. We used to hang out like just like normal kids, whatever. And I would say 99% of the time, I never thought about the fact that he was black, except when it would be brought up, right? Except when it would be brought up, not necessarily by him, but by other people basically talking about how he's oppressed and stuff like that. I mean, even back then, this was like, I guess, like 1993, 1994, something like that. And, we're just running around, 13-year-old kids goofing off. Whatever. I never saw anybody be racist against him, in my hometown anyway. And like I said, there were bad kids. I mean, there were kids that were a bit vicious, and I'm sure they would have said the N-word to him if they didn't like him or something like that. But it wasn't because they were racist. It was because they would probably know that that's something that would upset him, that would bother him. And he wasn't like, one of the coolest kids in school. I certainly wasn't one of the coolest kids in school. People didn't like us particularly. So I could see that happening. But again, kids don't necessarily think through what they're doing, right? They're not necessarily motivated by the same thing an adult might be. And even adults sometimes make that kind of mistake. You know what I mean? They might be pissed off at somebody, say, oh, that person's fat. And I know it'll upset them if I call them fat. And so even though it's socially unacceptable, I'm going to yell, hey, fatty, at them, despite the fact that I know it's really quite cruel and mean. That's the point, really. I mean, they're trying to be cruel and mean. So in the same way, somebody might yell out the N-word, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean they're a racist. I think that we've associated a lot of things with being racist or being a bigot or being a hateful person, which aren't necessarily appropriately associated with that thing. And granted, I'm a very optimistic person, right? I'm a very positive person. So certainly there are some times when somebody is a racist person, they are trying to attack somebody for their race, they are trying to be a bigot or whatever. But I don't think that's always true, and I certainly don't think that's always true with kids. And so when you're trying to moderate something like Twitch, which is mostly made up of teenage boys, what the hell are you going to do, guys? They're savages. Teenage boys are savages. I don't care if you're black or white or, Japanese or Taiwanese or South American or African or Russian or what. Teenage boys are savages. Okay? I mean, you get in trouble saying that about Native Americans, but I was a teenage boy. I can say it about myself. We are savages, all right? I remember when AOL came out. Okay, so I got my first computer in 1994. Or maybe 1993, I can't remember. And we had AOL chat rooms. I don't know if you guys remember those. And I would go on, and I would like just like today, I would troll people, I would troll people. I wasn't that brutal because I wasn't trying to be super mean or anything, but I would go on, and if I saw somebody who was trolling and attacking somebody, I would troll them back, right? So I was kind of like Dexter, I guess, right? I was like murdering serial killers. So I'd go in and I'd find somebody who was a troll, and just for fun, I'd be like, troll versus troll, and I'd try to troll them back and see if I could could say something that was more clever than them. Basically, that was the extent of it. And so I was like 14, 15, like, you know. And I was, you know, whatever. I thought maybe I don't know what I was thinking, but yeah, you're just trying to be clever, trying to outsmart people, trying to be funny. And, you know, I would get attention in the chat rooms. People would be like, oh, that guy's hilarious. And you know, it was a bit of fun. You talk political stuff sometimes and whatnot. But I don't necessarily think these kids are bad kids. I don't think these, you know, certainly there needs to be some moderation just for practical concerns. Because if you have people who are like congesting the chat with their trolling, then other people don't get a chance to talk and stuff like that. That's bad, right? You want to be able to sort of free up speech and let everybody speak. But if it's just somebody saying something you don't like, you know what? Just F off. Enough censorship, guys. Enough censorship. Just all the censorship just needs to go away. Okay? Yeah. If somebody's clogging up the chat, yeah, get rid of them. Okay, I understand that, right? That's a good reason to get rid of them. If they're just like typing the letter A over and over and over again so nobody else can chat, yeah, get rid of that guy. Because that's a technical issue, right? You're not censoring somebody's speech. You're just getting rid of a problem. But yeah, enough censorship. If Democrats can reiterate all the lies that I said, that I mentioned earlier in the show, if they can reiterate all those lies over and over and over again, day after day, on CNN and MSNBC, and there's never any consequence. Oh, we're just going to lie to you and it's fine and just believe us. And if we're wrong, we won't have to burn a retraction because we're CNN and nobody, you know, we're above reproach. Despite the fact that we lie to you every single day, all day. If they can do that, then like a 14-year-old boy can, like, you know, call you fat or say that your mother's a prostitute or something like that. Like, it's fine. Like, just let the kids alone, okay? Just back off. All right, I think we have one last story. So this story is a little bit controversial, I would say, because I know this guy. So this guy is a white nationalist. He's the kind of guy even conservatives hate. Now, I've spoken to Nick a few times. We've chatted. You know, he's kind of an odd guy because he's got a lot of views that are very smart. Like, he's like a super smart guy, very young, but very, very smart. In fact, I would say he's too smart. He's so intelligent that he has basically been able to corner a market and get a fan base that's very, very loyal, but a bit volatile. And I think to some degree it has hurt him because he's taken such a provocative position on so many issues. And I confronted him on one of them when we were at CPAC. I was like, dude, you know, basically on the interracial marriage stuff. He's like against interracial marriage. And before you say, oh, what a degenerate white nationalist Nick Fuentes is, what a degenerate, what a racist, consider this. Throughout the world, and I've traveled to several different countries around the world, and I've met people from all around the world, really, from like literally everywhere. I can say unequivocally that the vast majority of people in the world are against interracial marriage. Like, everybody. Like, if you go to Japan, they're against interracial marriage. If you go to India, they're against interracial marriage. If you go to Iran, they're against interracial marriage. If you go to, you know, Russia, they're against interracial marriage. If you go to South America, they're against interracial marriage. And to different places, you know, to some degree. And, you know, China, Africa. If you go to Africa, some tribes in Africa will not let you marry somebody else from another tribe next door, even though you're genetically identical because you're from the other tribe, right? I mean, it's crazy. You know, it's like the Montagues and Capulets. Is that it, right? All over the world, it's like that. All over the world, it's like that. Everybody hates interracial marriage. The only people who don't hate interracial marriage are white Northern Europeans. That's it. We're the only ones. People from the UK, people from the Nordic countries, people from the Germanic countries. That's basically it. Any Germanic region, and the places that the Germans conquered throughout the world, we're all okay with interracial marriage. We're the anti-races. We're basically the only anti-races in the world. When I say Germans or Germanic, what I mean is there is this sort of concept of the Proto-Germanic people, right? The Proto-Germanic people who spoke these Proto-Germanic languages. And it's basically everybody who lives in what we would consider modern-day Germany, plus all the other sort of Germanic language countries like Poland, Switzerland, Austria, these kind of places. Czech Republic, I think, to some degree. Oh, the wife is here. The wife is here. Darling, you want to pull up a chair? And but then also the Nordic countries, Sweden, Norway, Denmark, all those places, we're all basically related. All those people are basically related. The Germans and the Swedes and you go back far enough, we're all kind of the same people. But then also the Anglo-Saxons, so the Saxons, some of them moved into England in that region, so they're all Anglo-Saxons, right? And then obviously they had a strong cultural influence on the Scots and the Irish, the Celts and the Picts and all those folks. So basically, the German region, where what you would call like the Germanic peoples, from those different countries, they went out and they took a bunch of different places, like the people from the Netherlands, who are also Germanic. They went out and they conquered a bunch of Africa. The British obviously conquered North America. They took, different parts of the world. Different Germanic groups took different parts of the world. You also had the Portuguese. You also had the French taking different parts. But at the end of the day, the only people who have as a strong ethic anti-racism are the ancestors of those various Germanic peoples throughout Europe, including myself, right? And I think this is right. I think this is the right way to be. I think that it is right to say, what I said to Nick was, I said, look, I get the instinct, because I think there is an instinctual desire for your kids to marry people of the same color or the same tribe or whatever it is. That tribal thinking, I think, is innate in all of us. I said, I understand where you come from there, right? Even Muhammad Ali, there's a great video if you want to go on YouTube and watch Muhammad Ali interracial marriage. Hilarious. He's like, you don't see the robin getting with the blue jay, do you? he's like, no. He's like, you don't see these different birds getting together, so he's like, why should black people and white people get married? It's funny, man. You should watch that video. So I get it. Like, I get where he's coming from. It's actually not that provocative anywhere else in the world except for North America and Northern Europe and like Australia, South Africa, places like that. But throughout most of the world, saying interracial marriage is bad is actually normal. Most people would agree with Nick. So I don't think of it as badly as most people do. That said, he knows how bad it's perceived in North America. So he knows he's being provocative by saying something like that. However, I decided to present this case to him because to me it's a very cruel thing to say that interracial marriage is bad. And the reason I think it's cruel is because it's not that easy to meet somebody you fall in love with. It's not that easy for anyone. It's not that easy for good-looking people. It's not that easy for charming people. It's not that easy for anyone. But imagine if you're like kind of ugly, not that charming, you don't have any money, and you need to meet somebody, and the only person that you meet is like a Mexican girl, but she's like very beautiful, very charming. You think she's great. She's Mexican, so I can't be with her because she's another race. Why would you do that? Why would you limit yourself in that way? That's crazy, right? You should never limit yourself that way. That's just like I'm going to reduce my quality of life for the rest of my life and be miserable because I don't want to marry somebody of a different race. That's just so stupid. So I was like, Nick, think about this. Think about all those poor losers who desperately want to meet somebody and be with somebody and they can't, because they're like, Nick Fuentes says I shouldn't marry somebody of a different race. And Nick's like, I don't know, that's just what I think. That was his whole response. And he had his whole crew behind him of these teenage thugs being like, whoa, what? Come on, Nick, take him out. And Nick's like, yeah, I don't got anything. That's what I think. I'm like, all right, that's what you think. That's what you think. It's we couldn't really argue because I don't think there's no real rationale to it. It's just how he feels. Okay, fine. Lots of people around the world feel the same way. I can't sit there and like point at him and say you're an evil a-hole because of that, but he does know it's provocative. So apparently this guy, Nick Fuentes, he's been placed on a no-fly list. Now, there is a catch to this at the end. There's a sort of twist ending. But here's the problem. There does seem to be a lot of people that were at the protest January 6th who have been put on no-fly lists. This was reported by Tucker Carlson recently. And these people are reported. In the wake of the Capitol riot on January 6th, there have been anecdotal accounts circulating about people who were either in attendance at the riot that day or simply at the previous Trump rally being placed on the no-fly list. Here we go. On no-fly lists and being unable to move about freely. Tucker Carlson reported on this latest curtailment of liberties on Tuesday night. That's not very good writing. Carlson said that no matter what the political views a person holds, whether far right, far left, or anything in between, their travel should not be limited because of them. 100%. The people at the Capitol on January 6th, they're not violent people. They're not bad people. I don't know what the government is thinking they're doing, putting them on a no-fly list. You are curtailing civil liberties just because you don't like somebody's political position. Anyway, so this is what Nick Fuentes has reported has happened to him. This is popularized by Elijah Schaffer, who happens to be a good friend of mine. He says, Nick Fuentes, one of the most banned right-wing commentators online, was recently put on a no-fly list. I should say I've talked a few times with Elijah Schaffer about Nick Fuentes, especially when he sort of blew up and became very well known in the media. And we both disagree with Nick Fuentes on most political issues. Like Elijah Schaffer and I disagree with Nick Fuentes, but Elijah did have Nick on his show, and he was like, yeah, Nick Fuentes' fans are crazy, and they've been attacking me ever since and trolling me and like giving me a hard time. So Elijah was like, don't have Nick on your show, because I was going to have him on my show, and because we, whatever. But Elijah was like, don't do it. His fans are crazy. And I met some of his fans, and actually some of the people that are fans of Nick Fuentes, I think are actually very good people. I think this whole white nationalist thing is kind of blown out of proportion. I'm not a white nationalist. I don't agree with white nationalist views. I don't believe in the ethno-state in America or anything like that. But they're not necessarily just like evil people. All right. Let's see here. Fuentes presented a video. Okay, let's just play the video. Here we go. Darling.
Hey, I'm sorry. Who did you say to talk to down there?
You could try talking to say we're not saying that they're going to give you an answer or they have an answer.
But you pointed down there. Who's down there?
There's probably a guy with the blue shirt.
Oh, just like a security guy?
Yeah, but I'm not sure they'll have an answer for you.
Okay. And there's no way I could get on this plane?
No, you cannot they're not letting you fly with Southwest.
With Southwest?
I'm
but
not sure
maybe
about other airlines.
Delta, maybe?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I know that was a TSA number. I'm not sure if you're blocked from just the no-fly list.
Did they give you a reason?
No.
It's a no-fly list, you said?
I'm not sure.
Okay. All right.
They just told me that you're not allowed to fly.
Okay.
Okay? That's all they told me.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Okay, so what's weird about this isn't that he's on a no-fly list. That happens for a variety of reasons. What's weird about this is nobody will tell him why. Michelle Malkin filed a Freedom of Information Act requesting to get a clear picture of what's going on. Michelle Malkin asks for the policy statement outlining the process and criteria according to which officials nominate, consider, and approve names for the no-fly list, selectee list, and extended selectee list. All information, documents, records, and communications within the TSA and or between TSA and FBI regarding attendees of the January 6th, 2001 Capitol rally and their inclusion of on the no-fly list, selectee list, and extended selectee list from January 6th, 2021 through the present. I love that. I love Michelle Malkin. She's awesome. Michelle Malkin also wanted to know the level of classification of the information and the specific authority which classified this information, as well as the specific classification categories of this information, as well as identification, blah, 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 blah. A lot of shuns in this paragraph. Anyway, she asked for a lot of stuff. Michelle Malkin writes, filed a Freedom of Information Act request, no-fly list status, blah, 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 blah. She just says what she did there. And so this is my buddy Elijah again. He's reposted this thing. And according to Blaze Media staff, okay, so Blaze Media looked into this, right? That's where Elijah Schaffer works for Blaze. So this chick named Riki Ratliff, I don't actually know Riki, writes, I asked DHS why white nationalist Nick Fuentes was on TSA no-fly list, and they told me to ask the FBI. And then the FBI said, in keeping with standard practice, we can neither confirm nor deny whether an individual is listed. If Fuentes is a national security threat, don't we deserve to know that? And doesn't he deserve to know why he's on a no-fly list? I would want to know why I'm on a no-fly list if I wasn't able to fly. The FBI would not confirm or deny. Fuentes has not been convicted of anything with regards to the Capitol riot on January 6th, yet it appears that he's being denied his right to move. But now here's the... okay, so this a bunch of people commented on this. Inez Stepman wrote, Nick Fuentes is obviously an idiot with evil views, but it should worry everyone... Me no read today. But it should worry everyone that airlines are ramping up political tests to fly. You don't need to send people to jail for wrongthink if you can functionally bar them from normal life via private companies. That's right. That's right. She makes an excellent point. Like, if you can just basically stop companies from letting people buy your products or services, then you don't need to put them in prison because they're effectively in prison, right? What are they going to do? Like, walk to places? Well, you can't use the gas station, so you can't use your car. You can't use the airplane. You can't use the train, so you're just stuck in your house for the rest of your life. Oh, and you can't shop for groceries, so you're just going to starve to death. Let's see here. Daily Wire's Matt Walsh also commented. Matt Walsh says, the government putting citizens on no-fly lists for their political views is a major issue, and all freedom-loving Americans should answer to the transparency, blah, 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 blah. Okay, but here's the twist. I'm going to get down to the twist. The twist. So Robbie Suave, who I also know, and I did a panel with Robbie, actually, he writes, no-fly list my ass, don't... Oh, well, he posted something that somebody else posted. No fly list my ass, don't bully flight staff, and maybe the airline won't ban you from flying on their plane. So he says that he got kicked off once. Nick Fuentes posted this before, that he got kicked off a plane once for not wearing his mask properly, which is also, by the way, really stupid. But if that's true, then he's not actually on the no-fly list, by the federal government. He's on, like they say, the Southwest Airlines no-fly list, something like that. So is it that the federal government has put him on a no-fly list, or is it just Southwest Airlines didn't want him to fly because of the mask thing? I don't know. If it's a federal government thing, I think it's a huge violation of civil rights. I think we should be infuriated. If it's the Southwest Airline thing, why don't they just tell him? Why don't they just tell him what it is? And if he's not on a no-fly list, why doesn't the FBI just say, no, he's not on a no-fly list? Why do they got to keep it a secret? So obviously there's something suspicious going on here. Either that, or it's really just being mismanaged how they're discussing this. Never thought I'd be on here defending Nick Fuentes, but I do, he got kicked off all social media, and I defended him at the time by saying that you can't just ban people from the internet because you don't like their ideas. As grotesque as you might find them, you've got to be able to give, people have got to be given the opportunity to express their ideas, and then we can hate them or we can love them depending on, where we stand. But to just deny people the opportunity to speak, indefensible. This is also indefensible. We are stripping people of their civil liberties because we don't like how they think. That is un-American. That's terrible. That's not the way democracy or our world should be, our country should be. Yeah, I think the rest of the world should follow suit, and we should have free expression of ideas and things like that everywhere, but we don't. And we always looked at other countries and we said, this is despicable. This is terrible that they don't provide people with their freedom of expression. Look at these dictatorships. Look at how evil they are. We have become one of those despicable countries. It's horrifying. The federal government is being weaponized against people now, like Rudy Giuliani. I mean, it's unbelievable. Darling, could you kill the cat, please? And with that, we end the news. But we are not done yet, because I would love to read the questions and comments that you guys have presented to me throughout the broadcast. But of course, I can't keep track of Super Chat, so I've lost most of what you've said. But I'll try to read what I can find here. Mark in Alberta writes, I think I'll start an OnlyFans, and if you don't sign up, you might be transphobic. That's too funny. I thought it would be funny once if, because I heard about OnlyFans and I thought somebody told me about it, and I thought it was just like a site for strippers or something like that. And so I thought it'd be funny because it sounded just like a regular social media site. I thought it'd be funny to do a sketch as if AOC signed up for OnlyFans, but she didn't know that it was like a pornographic site. She's just like, hey guys, so I love social media, so I just thought I'd start an OnlyFans site. But then somebody said that it wasn't actually just a pornography site. Like there was lots of things people did on there. So I thought, well, this sketch won't work. Yeah, it's just a joke about how stupid AOC is, but I didn't know enough about OnlyFans, and I still don't, if I'm honest. Market Alberta says, hey, fatty. He's right, I'm fat. Okay. Downstream says, you're going to watch Biden's address. I'll watch it. I mean, I think it aired when I was doing this stream, but I'm going to watch it, yeah, for sure. Frank James writes, when the internet was new, I used to argue with Americans about whose country did what. I inadvertently tricked myself into learning history so I could brag about my country. That's actually pretty funny. Yeah, I kind of did the same thing, except I didn't do it to argue. When I was young, I wanted to be a writer. I wanted to write for Hollywood movies, and I wanted to write novels and all that kind of stuff. And so I would write novels, and I would write film scripts and all that kind of stuff. And what I found was that when I would write about a particular region, like if I'd write about Paris or something like that, if I'd never been to Paris, which when I was a kid I had obviously not been to Paris. Well, maybe not obvious to you guys, but I hadn't been to Paris. And so what I would do is I had dictionaries. I had this big dictionary. This is kind of before the internet was easy to use. And I would just have pages open, like 6 books maybe, open on my bed. I would just have them open to different subjects, and I'd be reading about different places and different things, and I'd have maps and all this kind of stuff. And I use all my research to be able to write about a location or write about a point in history or something like that. And I would write it in such a way that it was so well researched that I didn't think that anybody could look into it and say, that's not accurate. I didn't want anybody to to break apart my movies or break apart my novels and say, oh, this is all wrong. Like this guy got all this stuff wrong. So I was like, I kind of is in the same boat. Like I was forced to educate myself about a lot of things I didn't necessarily want to research, but I felt like I had to make the scripts that I was writing accurate. So it's kind of funny how jobs can do that. Let's see here. Let's move on. Dark Crusher writes, I'd like to have a beer or something with you because you share a lot of my views, kind of like the Hank Williams Jr. song, Dude from the City, Dude from the Country. Good combo. Yeah, thanks, man. I'll tell you what, I am from the city, but I'm not from the city. I live in the city, but I'm actually from Oregon. So that's probably why. I grew up, literally riding horses and dirt bikes. That was my life as a kid. A lot of dirt bikes, a lot of horses. We went snowboarding all the time. I had a buddy with a beach house, but it was basically like a rundown shack. And so we'd go to the beach and we'd go crabbing. I don't know if you guys in Oregon, crabbing is kind of popular. You'd throw these crab pods in. We'd go fishing. We go crabbing. We'd go hunt for clams. Clamming. They call it clamming. And yeah, we did all that kind of crap. I grew up in the forest, so I was always like running around the forest, climbing trees and stuff like that. I spent probably the first, 5 years of life that I could stand, at least a good percentage of the time in a tree. 'Cause I loved climbing trees as a kid. I love climbing trees and digging holes. Kind of weird for a child, but I always get the shovel. I don't know why I like digging holes. It was weird, but kids like weird stuff. All right, let's see here. But yeah, I'd have a beer with you, man. Let's see here. Mason Goliath writes, what reason did he give for being an agent, for being against interracial marriage? He didn't really give a reason, but from what I understand with the white nationalists, I watched a YouTube video with a white nationalist talking about this once, and the position most white nationalists have about interracial marriage is that white people are depopulating, and the reason we're depopulating is because we have fewer kids than we have people on the planet. So in terms of like the white population of the planet, we're the only race that has fewer than 2 kids for every 2 people on the planet. So the people who are getting married, even if they're having more than 2 kids, it's not making up for the number of people who aren't having any kids. And our average reproduction rate is something below 2, 2 per couple. So we're not repopulating the current population. We're depopulating. We're slowly going away. And if you marry outside the white race, then you're not having, and you have a bunch of kids, you're not having white kids, right? So the white nationalists, they like the idea of more and more white people. I don't think that's actually not a particular, like, I don't think it's a bad thing to want, because if somebody were to say, oh, well, the country of Mauritius is being depopulated and they're being overrun by a different culture, and in the next 50 years, if they don't start having more kids, we're going to run out of people from Mauritius. People from Mauritius are not white, but I would still think that was bad, right? I would still say, okay, well, we want to have more people from Mauritius because, we want to encourage breeding, because we don't want to see that culture go away. We don't want to see that people go away. But the thing about white people is, despite the fact that we're reducing in population, I think there's just so many white people in the world. I don't think that we're going to depopulate anytime soon. The real fear, I think, is for countries with a heavy immigration policy to eventually be outnumbered, be overrun by other populations, and then they become minorities in their own countries, right? Countries that they are if you have a native population of white people in, say, Luxembourg, and Luxembourg becomes overrun with Syrian Muslims or something like that, or I don't know, Moroccans or something like that, and the whole country just becomes Moroccan, and you have just like a small number of white people who, maybe they no longer control their own country. To me, that's sad. I like to see the preservation of cultures. I like to see the preservation of peoples. And so I have some sympathy with that concept of you don't want to see a particular group wiped out. I just don't see it as a danger at the moment. People look kind of like really far into the future and they say, oh, well, if things keep going the way they are going. I don't get spooked that easily. I mean, it's kind of like climate change to me. To me, it's a little bit of a hysteria. I don't get as spooked by that as some other people. I also don't think white people are particularly great. I mean, some white people are... I want to write a book, no joke, called White People Are Awesome. But that's because I think as a group, we have done some amazing things. And certainly there are a lot of white people who are awesome. I mean, absolutely awesome. But there's also a lot of awesome people from every race. And there's a lot of a-holes in the white race. And there's a lot of a-holes in every other race. So to me, the race thing isn't quite as important as other things. That's my perspective. But I do sympathize with the idea of wanting to preserve culture, wanting to preserve race. I talk about that a lot on the show, and I agree with the white nationalists in some ways. But yeah, I think interracial marriage is great. One of my best friends is half Japanese, so if I hate interracial marriage, I got a problem. All right, let's have a look here. Frank James writes, okay, that's a great point. Can't find someone of my own race. Marrying a different race will only produce racially superior children. My mom used to annoy the hell out of me because when I was a kid, she, mixed race kids in Oregon was actually quite rare. My buddy Ryan, who I said was black that I grew up with, he was actually mixed race. His mom was white. But we did have a friend who, for what, I don't remember what the situation was. I think he was white, but he had two black kids. Like he married a black girl or something like that, and she ended up leaving, so it was just him and the kids. Or I don't remember exactly the situation. It was a guy from church or something like that. And my mom would always go on and on about how beautiful the kids were, and she'd be like, "Oh, the mixed race kids are like the most beautiful kids." And I don't know if that was like a trend at the time that she was repeating, or what the hell was going on. But I was always just like, "Hey, Mom, I'm standing right here. Okay, the most beautiful kids are obviously us." I'm like, "What are you talking about? Mixed race kids are the most beautiful kids?" I found it like mildly offensive. That's what my mother thought. ZZ the Boxing Cat writes, what's your opinion on Nikki Haley? I like Nikki Haley. I haven't seen anything to dislike about her. The problem with a lot of conservatives that have been around in DC for a long time, it's like, sometimes they have one or two views that you're like, well, that's a little weird or suspicious. And you never know if they're actually sort of like compromised or they're part of, the establishment, and you don't want that. Nobody wants that. Yeah, Yankee the Rebel writes, I've heard she's a rhino, but I haven't cared enough to look into her. Yeah, I'm kind of the same. I don't know enough about Nikki Haley to have formed an informed position on her. Yeah, I'm not like a super fan, but I don't dislike Nikki Haley. Daniel J. Corica writes, Biden's speech was an incoherent, rambling mess. Apparently, he's now an America First former vice president. Oh man, okay. that doesn't make any sense. So I'm guessing that he said that or something like that. So I'm actually quite excited to look into that. Valeria's in the shower right now, so I can't get her to come say goodbye, but I think I'm going to say goodbye. We only got one super chat for the day. Well, Valeria would be very angry with you all, but I don't mind. I like not getting super chats because I kind of feel like super chats are a little bit, it's like, pay me so that we can have this conversation. It's so stupid. Like, I want to do that. I would rather just talk to you guys and not have the money thing in the middle. So I'm glad no super chats. But thank you, Daniel, for your super chat. That's very cool. Herbie Hancock writes, "That's racist, Chris." I assume it's sarcastic. Frank James writes, "White people are awesome. Yeah, toxic masculinity. What could possibly go wrong?" Well, I kind of want it to be a provocative title. That's why I wanted to put it. Like, if I can get it banned in the UK or something like that, I can get good book sales. Frank James writes, "We're overpopulated as a species. It wouldn't hurt to settle down on the breeding unless you're in Japan." Frank James, you're getting kind of warm in terms of there's a script I wanted to write. And it's set in the future, and it's a future in which white people are bred almost to extinction. And so you have a certain group of people of color, as they call them, who run the world, run various countries in the world and whatnot. And they've all decided that there is one city in which white people will be exclusively allowed to live without interference from anywhere else, right? So white people can live outside the city, but no one else can live inside the city. So only white people are allowed in the city. And but the problem is that there's this overpopulation, right? There's overpopulation in the world. All the resources are going away, and the world is dying. And they're trying to develop technologies to take us to other countries and seed us to other planets. And seed other planets. And what they end up doing is every year they have a lottery, like a Hunger Games type lottery. And then they kill off like large swaths of people around the world. So like you'll get a number, and if your number is called that year, you got to go to a special camp, and then you're killed. And some people run, but they're almost always caught, and they're almost always killed. But every once in a while, somebody goes on the run, and they can't find them. They don't know where they go because they have all this digital technology, and they can track them, and they don't know how these people are escaping. Finally, at the end of the story, I'll tell you the twist, because why not? So at the end of the story, they do figure out how to seed other planets and how to get, to get it to be sort of like what the Star Trek would say M-class planet, right? To make it into like Earth. And my buddy's writing me. Nope, I haven't watched that movie. I will watch it though. So they all these people go to this other planet, and they seed these other planets, and you have different races in different countries seeding different planets. So, you have like maybe Africans on this planet and South Americans on that planet and Asian people on the next planet over there. But they decide to leave Earth for white people. They say, white people, you can populate all you want, take over all the different parts of Earth, whatever. And what we find when all the other groups leave is that after all that time, the people who have been running away and escaping from this lottery, and they didn't know where they were going. Where they were going is they were being hidden by the white people underground in the city. So the white people were protecting some of the people that were in the lottery and not letting them get killed off. So anyway, I thought that was kind of a nice story. But I don't know if I would write that story. I mean, it's like, when you're a writer, you come up with like 1,000 different ideas every week. So that was just one of them. I have no real interest in writing, specifically racially charged scripts. But I do have this desire to kind of fix the way the world thinks about white people, because there's this like bizarre idea that like white people are so evil, and they're not. Some are. Some are evil. By the way, I'm going to end the show on this. This is a weird thing. I looked up I was watching a video with one of the Beatles. Who's one of the Beatles that's alive? Paul McCartney. I was watching this video with Paul McCartney, and I don't know why this occurred to me. I was like, don't some people think like the Beatles sold their soul to the devil or something like that? And I always thought like, I wonder if John Lennon sold his soul to the devil, because he does seem kind of weird, like he might do something like that. So I look it up, and it's like it's like a thing, right? It's like a known thing that John Lennon sold his soul to the devil. Like he like admitted this to his friend, and this was like a known thing somehow. And I didn't really do a ton of research into it, but that's weird, right? I don't know how true that is. I didn't go into a deep dive. I'm not really into like the, investigating the supernatural. I don't like research aliens. I don't do the ghost stuff. I don't do the demonic stuff. I never read into any of that. I don't know why I looked it up. Just one of those random things. I was in the middle of something, needed a break, and thought, let me look up if John Lennon sold his soul to the devil. So it's believed by many people that John Lennon sold his soul to the devil, and there seems to be evidence to support it. But the weirdest thing about it is that the guy who murdered him, what's his name? I forget his name. He's got 3 names. Chapman. Anyway. Mark Chapman? Something. Anyway. So this guy who ends up killing John Lennon apparently was like a Satan worshiper, and he felt compelled by like demons to murder John Lennon. And John Lennon had apparently made a pact with the devil to become a famous musician. It's weird, right? It's a weird story. So anyway, if you're into that kind of stuff, look that up. I don't know. I'm probably not going to research it ever again, but it's just one of those things that I felt a compulsion to look up. I looked up. I was like, holy crap! I wonder if this is actually true. Candace Owens might co-write "White People Are Awesome." It would keep you in the clear. Just put her name on it first. Mark David Chapman. Yeah, is that right? Is that his name? Anyway, yes. I don't know. I read about it last night late. It's one of those weird things where you go down a rabbit hole and then you're like, what am I doing? So who knows? Did John Lennon sell his soul to the devil? I don't know. But it's something, if you're interested in, look it up. It's kind of fun little goofy conspiracy theory that, see, to me, that's what the word conspiracy theory should be. Like, that's a lot more fun than this whole concept of a conspiracy theory being this like political weapon that we use to say, it's a debunk conspiracy theory, you're just a psycho. It's a lot more fun to look up things like, did John Lennon sell his soul to the devil? To me, that's fun. All right, guys. You guys have a lovely evening. I'm going to go chat with my wife now, and I will see you tomorrow. And remember, I am toxic, she is masculine, and we are the least professional show on YouTube. Good night. Toxic masculinity.